Paris, supposed to be the city of love, is exploding again into hateful confrontation. Riot police versus angry youths, many under the age of 18. There's talk the French government may be forced to call a state of emergency.
Outside the Supreme Court, demonstrators gathered after the justices struck down race-based admissions at Harvard and the University of North Carolina, ruling that they violate equal protections guaranteed by the U.S. Constitution. Shortly afterwards, President Biden weighed in.
I know today's court decision is a severe disappointment to so many people, including me. But we cannot let the decision be a permanent setback for the country.
Activists who argued the affirmative action policies amounted to reverse discrimination against white and Asian American college applicants hailed the ruling as a victory.
From today, all children will be judged by the content of their character and also by their merit, not by color of their skin.
If you're going to ask a question, don't point at me and don't be disrespectful to me. I'm the mayor of this city. And treat me with the respect I deserve to be treated. I'm speaking to you as an adult. Don't stand in front like you treated someone that's on the plantation that you own. Give me the respect I deserve and engage in a conversation.
Give us pizza or give us death. Can't have a small business. Can't have pizza. New York City is nothing without pizza.
Welcome to Burn Babylon Burn. This is not a news show. It's an opinion show. We encourage you to do your own research. We do not give financial, legal, medical, or any kind of advice. Now enjoy the show.
Welcome to Burn Babylon Burn with Mud. How you doing, buddy? Is that
Pretty
pizza
good.
burning? Or is it Paris? What's going on here?
Oh, it's just burning in Alabama just because it's so hot. It's 101 degrees here.
I brought the warm weather with me to California. The Uber driver today said that they'd been in the 70s up until I got here. And today might be the first day up in the Hundies. I'm like, okay, cool. Brought a little Texas with me.
Yes, indeed. Man, it's blazing, but also the news is blazing right now.
Yeah, there's plenty of stuff that we could have tapped on this week, but man, these were the ones that stuck out to me. Mainly, man, I just want to do the this is Eric Adams impression. I am your mayor, and you cannot have coal-fired pizza anymore. I will make sure there is no more livestock in New York City. Yeah. Respect me. I am your mayor.
You earn respect. You don't demand respect. If you have to demand respect at that point, you've already lost the game. You remember Jeb Bush? Please clap.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Please clap.
At this point, you've totally lost. You should just step out. I mean, come on, dude. So
yes. So yeah, Mr. Adams has said that the problem with climate change is that too many pizzas are burning too much coal, and that that they're gonna have to cut down on their coal fires. And you remember whenever people were talking about the stove thing not too long ago, and now then they said we're not coming for your stove. Now they're coming for your coal-fired pizza.
I do not understand the logic. A, they're already losing tourism over there, hands down. They're already losing tourism. They've already driven tons and tons of small mom and pop stores out of business. And now they're trying to do this. I'm like, you're just doubling down on what's already crippling the city. It makes no sense. Do you think more people are going to move there? Do you think the people that will move to New York City are actually going to have the money to keep the industry going there? You're just literally you're playing a game of Jenga blocks, and you just pulled two pieces out from the same side, and it's teetering right now.
Well, the people that are moving to New York City right now are destitute people from the third world. So, and we see how that's working out in Paris right now. Um, so then there's also Eric Adams called an old Holocaust survivor lady a plantation owner, which is funny too because he's full of blunders this week. You will respect me. Yeah.
I did not catch that one. That one did not come up. What?
She had to have been about 6, and I don't know how these survivors keep multiplying. I mean, it's so.
Well, it's more attention's being pulled to them, but seriously, he did that.
Yeah, you play the woke game, you win the woke prize. He gets to be the yeah. So
did you see the one, the only living president? The only president that's still alive that was not a slave owner is Donald. That his family never owned slaves was Donald Trump. Even Barack Obama's ancestors owned slaves.
Right.
And you can't say it's because his ancestor that's black was the one that got violated or whatever by the slave master. No, his father's from Kenya. His white mom's family owned slaves.
Right. Yeah, I saw this, and I also saw how the news covered it. I thought that was pretty funny, just because they had to throw in that he said that there was very fine people on both sides at the end of the report, and that had been abbreviated anyway. But yeah, it was funny just because there was no good reason for them to release that as being a media that's hostile to him, and I don't really understand why they did it.
It was just getting blown up, mainly on the internet. That's the interesting thing about the internet. I mean, give us pizza or give us death. I mean, but Bud Light, I don't know. You travel the country more than me. None of my buddies drink Bud Light anymore. Like, I never drank it, but.
Did you happen to see the article I sent you about Yingling sponsoring a drag show?
I did.
Okay. All ages, I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
We've got 2 fights at a time. We've got Target. We've got Bud Light. Let's stick with the 2, and then let's double down afterwards. Let's show them that we can break the backs of those 2 and then move on to the next one.
As I've said before, Ambev controls more than half of the market anyway. And then if you go into any small local brewery, one of the first things you're going to see is a pride flag. I went to a restaurant last night that had, it had quite a few. It was kind of like a restaurant / tap house, and I was looking at the menu, and it said Pride Month menu, and all of the beers that were canned, and they all said something gay in the title. And yeah, this is. I'm so glad it's over. By the way, that should be our top story right now. Tonight at midnight, no more gay stuff.
It's MAGA month.
The gayness must end. Yeah. Oh, you're
Tomorrow,
right.
MAGA month.
Wow, this is the second MAGA month that I'm celebrating with you. I remember when you declared that last year. Was it you that actually declared that, or did you get it from one of your Daily Wire shows or something?
I don't know who coined the term. It might have been Tim Pool. I know Tim Pool was talking about it. It's Pride Month is almost over. It might have been Dave Rubin. Might have been Daily Wire. Might have been Styx Hexenhammer.
Okay. Speaking of Tim, our friend the Drizzle from Grand Theft World Liberty Radio says that he would rather be watching us than the fakers over at Timcast. So thank you, Drizzle. That's a huge compliment. Timcast, though, I mean, just whatever he does, I know what it is, but whatever he does, it's always relevant just because of the audience he brings. And that, that's really cool.
Yeah.
Props to him really for that.
For me, I couldn't really watch Tim Pool before he started the IRL. He's a lot better whenever he's interviewing or having those conversations, and it's especially fun because there's so many different perspectives that come out on there. But those are the, I'll watch them, while I'm mowing yards because I have nothing else to do. I'll just listen to them. I'm not watching them. But yeah, but it's definitely a fun little. It's fun watching the whole industry shifting right now. I'm just waiting for somebody to actually like really put money into getting a good beer going for a good price that is not that doesn't hate you.
I think somebody did that, and it was really expensive, but it was brewed by the people that brew Goose Island in Chicago. And I'm
really?
pretty sure that Goose Island is distributed by Ambev. So, I mean, it's funny because no matter what you do, you're still going to step in it. It's like I was at a shoe store today trying to find some new slides, and every single one, I checked the brands. Every single one had a Pride shoe, and I'm like, there's nothing I can do to get away from this. It's Adidas, freaking Puma, all of them had like some rainbow garbage. So
that all ties back to the ESG score stuff, though. You can't get funding if you don't get that good ESG score. It's still funny that who's is it Marlboro? I think has a better ESG score than Tesla. Tesla makes.
I don't think it's Marlboro, but it is something like that.
It's a cigarette company has a better ESG score.
No,
than Tesla.
I think it's Exxon.
I swear it was a cigarette company that also. There's a cigarette company that also has a better ESG score than Tesla, and it's like, I mean, Tesla's doing everything you guys want them to do.
When you finish smoking cock, smoke one of these.
It's all these elites. They've run out of stuff to complain about.
Well, you know how it works, right? The way the ESG system works is it's not money, because they can lose. Target is going to lose a ton of money. All these brands are going to lose a ton of money, but when their ESG score goes up, they have access to more money, and they run off of loans, and they make their payments every month. But companies that have lowest ESG scores won't be getting loans.
Exactly.
So you could run your business great, but you would be cut off by BlackRock and Vanguard and all of these companies that fund everything. So I see everybody celebrating that this is working, but it's not going to work in the long run because of the way the system is designed. You could make sure that no one's at all is drinking Bud Light or Budweiser products in general. They're still going to be making money because they distribute everywhere, and they're just massive or whatever. And they are making concessions right now. So there is things that are happening, but it's not enough. Aaron had a really good tweet on that about, well, you took step 1. Well, here's step 2, 3, 4, and 5. But I don't think the consumers demand the market anymore. And that's why ESG exists. That's what it's there for. And whenever it becomes something applied to us, it's a social credit system. And, guys like us that are doing, subversive kinds of conversations that are not approved by the mainstream narrative. Because I think really what we do always is try to counter whatever the mainstream is talking about, right? Well, whenever that gets tied to us in some sort of way, you being in real estate, it could be a real problem because I lost him. But it could be a real problem if you're in real estate because they won't want to give you the loan when whenever you apply for it, because you said stuff that they don't like. And a little more on I guess I don't have anything more on Eric Adams while Mud is coming up. It is funny though, because I mean you don't mess with pizza in New York. You can mess with just about anything, but not pizza. I mean it really does stand out as a thing. It's people go to New York for the pizza sometimes. I know that the few times that I've been in New York City, I wanted to try out the pizza parlors. You know, it's like it's a whole culture there. And you know, the coal-fired ovens are something that the consumer, you and I, whenever we find out that the pizza is made by coal, we want to go there. But if that affects the company's ESG score, and then they start heating their pizza at microwaves or something ridiculous like that, then, you know, we're not going to want to go, but their score is going to go up, and all these guys that are controlling everything are going to win, in some way at least. And that's really kind of how the thing happened in France. You know, the country was incentivized to take in refugees because they would get some sort of globalist money, and it was promoted by companies, or by those NGOs, non-governmental organizations. So the NGOs are promoting this to the government, that they have to have certain types of people immigrate in and have to accept so many refugees, and then they get more money, and it screws the local citizens, and their culture is being replaced by a bunch of people that are hostile to it. So now they're having their own version of the fentanyl Floyd riots happening in France right now. So basically they're having their own, you know, Summer of George out in France right now due to some kid got shot. He's a repeat offender. He never complied with the cops, and eventually they had to shoot him, and now they're burning everything in sight. The place looks worse than the Ukraine does right now. Have you seen the pictures from France? I'm sure you saw what we had in the intro video, but man, people are going wild. They're, you know, driving all over the place, wrecking into things, looting, just going bonkers.
Was that, did that just happen today?
Well, it happened about 4 days ago, or I guess 3.5 now. And each night is getting progressively more and more violent and destructive. They burned down a library in Marseille. I can't pronounce it. I'm not French enough.
Marseille, probably. That's how you probably.
Marseille, yeah.
I guess that.
It's ancient library, you know, and this is how things happen, man. Like that, cultural things like that, they're destroying those things so that they can replace it with theirs. And they're doing this whole, you know, France's racist thing. Now, France has a history with Algeria, where a lot of these guys are from. You know, France had a war with Algeria a long time ago. And so, I mean, this is interesting because basically this is revenge, you know, because Algeria was a French colony at one point.
Yeah, to me, one of the funnier things is that, in America, you're way more likely to be, you know, accepted in as long as you treat others properly. If I go over to France, even though I have a technically French last name, I guess it's sort of French. It's technically Basque, but you know, they're going to treat me completely differently because I'm not from there. Like it's a lot more exclusive. Like if you come over to Alabama, and as long as you treat each other with respect, we're going to accept you. I don't
know about that. I think that a lot of that, you know, because there used to be some sort of French snobbery and making fun of the vacationers and things like that. But I mean, this has been going on for a long time with France. France was probably the most open door in Europe for a long time. And, you know, they've got now a 9% Muslim population, and that's basically who's writing. It's basically Muslim teenagers, and they're just wrecking the place. So, you know, so whenever you look at cultures, you know, I was talking to a driver today, an Uber driver, and he was talking about Japan, and I'm telling him that, you know, the birth rate in Japan is so low right now that Japan is the Japanese culture is going to go away, possibly in our lifetime. And that's what happens whenever, you know, your local birth rates are low and your immigration is high. And and they have to have people. I mean, they're shutting down stores and closing stores that used to be 24 hours. A lot of things are like by vending machines, things like that. But that's what happens when you replace people. And that's why this is an extension of what's called the Kalergi plan. This thing has been going on for decades now. The guy that invented the European Union basically had this plan of just dumping immigrants and mixing cultures up until, Western culture in Europe is completely replaced.
Well, I don't know if you've noticed, but there's a lot of places in the U.S. that no longer open 24/7 as well. Have you noticed that as well?
Yeah, I've noticed a few things about places closing early. I don't think we have a declining population, though. I mean, a huge amount of population is coming straight over the border, and that's not a good thing.
That's not quite what I'm referring to. There's something really wrong with people's desire to actually go out and work. Like COVID lockdowns really broke a lot of people. It's hard.
Well, it's what happens when you pay people to not work.
Yeah, and they're no longer paying them, but they're still just like, I deserve $20 an hour now. And I'm like, it's a $10 an hour job. Like the thing that I hate doing the most is walking up to an old lady with pension that needs her lawn care done and being like, I'm sorry, it's $120 per cut. And she's like, really? Well, actually, I told her it was $140 per cut, which is what I should have charged her. And she just like opened her eyes. She was like 90. I'm like, I guess I can do 120, but that's hurting my bottom line. I need a place to live as well, but I have to keep on paying more and more just to keep the business running. It's ridiculous because it's across the board. And a lot of it is because in order to get people to work for you, these other businesses have to start paying people more. I remember when I was in Oregon, when I was 22, I as a dishwasher, like I was a server, I was making I was a good server. So I was making good money there. But to fill up the other 10 hours in my 40-hour work week, I volunteered to be a dishwasher. They paid me $12. I think they just paid me $10 an hour to be a dishwasher. Now, 10 years later, I have a friend that started working at a restaurant. He started off getting paid $18 an hour as a dishwasher. I'm like, what's going on?
Yeah, I can't believe how much my nephew is making right now. I was really surprised because I used to work in a furniture store for almost half of what he's making right now. So it's pretty funny, but that they screwed up the money. That was what the response to this fake illness that they spread around was, to screw up the money.
But in my perspective, it ties back into, I don't think the entire thing is planned. I think they look and wait for the opportunity, and then they jump on the opportunity.
Well, okay, so are they stupid or are they evil yet again, right? Obviously, Biden and Fetterman and all of these people that stumble all over every single word that they make, they're stupid, and then you've got people that are actually evil, like Lindsey Graham, who just wants to start World War III. And he doesn't seem like he's really, really smart, but he does have a high IQ.
Yeah, but it's the money interest behind them that gets them elected again. The people with no talent, rub elbows with their buddies. That's one of the reasons I didn't actually go to college. I wanted to get there by my own merit. I had several people tell me to go to college just because you go to college, you rub elbows with people, and then that's how you make the connections with the powerful people. And I'm like, that's not the way I want to go about things. I had a friend accuse me he did a little slight against me. He's like, the way you operate like the people that built the Panama Canal. Do it at all costs, and a lot of people are going to die. And I'm like, the only time I get mad at somebody is if they do something that's going to hurt them or someone else. It's the only time you'll ever see me get really angry. That's the type of thing. Like, to me, it's not safety first. That's not the way I word it, but safety is definitely in top of mind. You definitely have to take risks in life, but a lot of these people, when they walk into this stuff, They're using people like Joe Biden to position themselves to make more money. They have, in order to get more investors, in order for BlackRock to get more investors, BlackRock has to show that there's a consistent increase in the amount of money you put into them. You'll get more money out of them. But whenever you get too big to fail, then the government's swooping in and making it so that you can't fail. They're bailing you out. And that's essentially, in my opinion, kind of what's happening right now. And that's this centralization is a thing that I can't stand. Decentralize this stuff. Don't pull it all into one little bubble.
They will decentralize things to their benefit.
Yeah, so
right. So that's how that works. It's like every single thing that we think is going to solve these things, they will do it to their benefit. But if it's a situation where it needs to be more centralized, then they will more centralize it, to our detriment. So, with it's funny because you can sit here and you can talk about decentralizing everything, and it's not going to solve the problem. It's not going to solve all of the problems. There is not a panacea at this point. There's just not one thing that's going to fix everything. The only thing really that I think would help, and it would help a lot, is to break the country up. And
but that's getting back to what the Constitution was actually designed for in the first place. The government is there to protect us against foreign invaders, and that's for the most part kind of it. It's all these different contracts that we have, and that's. By the way, the reason my phone shut off, it gave, apparently it's so hot in Alabama, it gave me a temperature warning, and my phone shut off. So I went and put it into the freezer and took my phone case off.
This happened last time. Maybe I should turn my camera off so your phone doesn't overheat.
No, that might. But I don't know why it is. It's only when you're on screen.
It's true.
But anyway, the point that it circles back to the point. Jen Psaki with the circle back. God dang that lady.
Yeah, you also said top of mind, which is something that is a mind virus that came from one of those press conferences as well. I'm pretty sure that was what's her name? Karine Jean-Pierre.
Jean-Pierre.
Yeah.
Oh, she did that one? I don't know.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Possibly. But it goes back to point Tim Pool and the Daily Wire making on building and Dan Bongino building these alternate the alternate, what do they call it? Stream of capital, alternate
parallel economies.
Parallel economy. There you go.
Okay. Yeah. And this only works to a certain extent. And mainly because all of our manufacturing was outsourced, and a lot of jobs were outsourced, and then a lot of things are taken over by computers at this point. And so basically we have to undo several revolutions, because we had an industrial revolution in the early part of last century, right? Then we had the computer revolution in the late part, and it's changed the way everything works. So, I mean, really the thing is, if we're gonna solve anything, we have to abandon technology in a big way. And I'm not necessarily saying go completely Amish, but at least half Amish.
Well, there's several different ways to do that. One of them is like the internet business that I'm working on building. We built a lot of our technology. We used a white platform and then built the technology off of the existing stuff. But it's going to be Americans. At first it's going to be me calling people, and then tech support is going to be my business partner. And then, as we grow, we're going to stick with Americans, because that way you're not getting annoyed. We're not trying to do it as a sales pitch, like, can we sell you something else type thing. We're trying to make it so that it's a useful and convenient thing, It's not like, sir, how are you doing today? And like, we're not trying to like read off a sheet. We're trying to make sure that we actually talk to you and solve your problems. That way, the first 5 minutes is not wasted with pleasantries reading off of a sheet of paper from somebody in India that can barely speak the language. There's ways around it.
Well, there's a lot of third world labor that's going into making the AI stuff work, and the AI is replacing those third world jobs of running the phone lines, which is really funny. You know how you can make a call in the afternoon and hear roosters crowing in the background because it's morning where they're at. So
I just give up on almost all the technology on those ends.
Oh yeah. Oh man, I press buttons over and over. Sometimes it hangs up on me, but I'm like, get me a live operator, and then I finally get one, and then they are really hard to understand, and I have to get them to repeat everying, and yeah, it's always fun.
Yes, exactly. And to me, the thing is one of the reasons I lawn care workers, lawn care business owners don't actually really despise each other. It's because there's so much work that you're not worried about your competition. There's just so much work out there. At some point, you get to a max. And the hard thing is making it so that you have somebody that you can rely on, that you don't have to watch over. You have to find somebody that's trustworthy enough to where you can just say, go do this. Here's a truck, here's a mower, go take care of this. And it's really hard to find those people because they have to be out in the heat, especially with the culture after COVID. It's really, really hard to find somebody that's willing to bust their butt to make sure that the job is done right and proper. I mean, for me, I was at one point paying them 50% of each yard, plus gas. And I was paying for equipment repairs. So I'm making 25% on the yard. Plus I'm having to deal with all the billing, advertising, and stuff like that. Whenever businesses get to a certain scale, a lot of them just start crumbling because the person in charge is trying to find the cheapest way to do it. And that's whenever you can find a better way to that's where other companies like the Daily Wire with the razors, and they're still perfecting them. They've not by no means got those things done right. I remember us talking about that back in the day.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still using Harry's because they're they might be woke, but they're just really high quality. And yeah, I just picked up a skull shaver, and man, that thing is awesome. It just leaves a little bit of fuzz, so I have to finish it off with a razor, but it takes a few seconds to get that done. But anyway,
but also Tim Pool with his coffee and his coffee shop idea.
There's 100 coffee roasters and providers out there. I mean, a lot of guys I listen to are promoting Fox and Sons, and I think that's cool. But I mean, are you fighting this with coffee, or are you gonna fight these evil pedophile globalists with coffee, dull razors, and stupid chocolate bars that I mean, I just don't think that this works. I want it to. I'd like to be able to to make all of my decisions based off of, like I said, with the shoes, I'm sitting here, you Google the shoe brand and see what they released for Pride, and every single one of them has an image of some rainbow version of their logo. I was walking by a North Face distribution store, like an outlet store. That's what it was. And they got rainbow flags all over their North Face logo. And how many things are you going to go against? It's not just this Pride stuff. You've got a lot of other plans in the work. It's all the ridiculousness that hits us. And when you live in clown world, it's really hard to be a conscious consumer and have anything. So that's why I said you got to be at least half Amish. Make your own shoes.
Well, make your own shoes and start figuring out how to make a good pair of shoes and start selling them. It's outsourcing. No, well, not exactly outsourcing, but it's creating jobs in the community. That's what we need to get back to, is actually creating jobs in the community. But I mean, if Tim Pool Daily Wire, because Daily Wire is also in movies and TV shows and stuff like that. If they keep hammering away at this stuff, I mean, What is a Woman by Matt Walsh?
Yeah,
The biggest documentary in the last year, I think it was. Wasn't it released last year, I think? Or was that this year?
I think it was last year, but
it was the biggest
still,
documentary. But the thing is whenever you make this, whenever you're generating that type of revenue, there's a local car dealership where I am in Alabama. He kept on having customers turned down by a bank. The bank would not give him loans. He just started his own bank. It's one of the biggest banks in my local area.
Okay, see that's also something I was talking about earlier, is that eventually the ESG is going to apply to us, and you being in real estate, that's going to be a really big issue. That, they're going to see some of the things that you say on the show and go after you. And here's the thing is, I was explaining to somebody about some company that did some woke maneuver. They don't care about conservative money. They're not interested in it. They really just aren't interested in it in any sort of way. But guess who is? Your little Ben Shapiro's out there. Those guys are interested in your money because they're gonna walk to the bank and fall right in line on this. They're not really truly in this. They're sort of grifting off of this situation. Now, you got to build something like that guy did. That's what needs to happen. And your idea of providing jobs for the community is another thing.
Yeah, the main thing is, the hard thing is getting it going. But that's the reason that I do admire Ben Shapiro, Jeremy the Guy King Boring, Dan Bongino, Dave Rubin, Tim Pool, because they, on top of the platform that they already have, they're using that money and they're reinvesting it back into seeing what they can do to solve the problem that's in front of them. I've tried at least.
Well, I mean, you're talking about a bunch of guys that are just kind of playing this game because they're not telling you the whole truth. But then you've got the Torba situation. Andrew Torba he's doing stuff like this as well. And Gab is growing all the time, and he doesn't actually censor anyone. I've seen Dave Rubin go out there and censor things that Ryan Dawson has to say. And, and then straight up lies coming from the Daily Wire, like as to, they had to call Magnus Hirschfeld. They called Magnus Hirschfeld a Nazi. No, he was not. That was Matt Walsh calling Magnus Hirschfeld, the guy who founded the transgender clinic in Weimar, Germany, called him a Nazi. He was not. The Nazis burned his clinic down. That's what happened there. They say that a Nazi invented transgenderism. No, it was the people that the Nazis were trying to get rid of. That's the truth.
I don't go out of my way to watch Matt Walsh ever. Just saying that. The only time I see him is when they do backstages. But to me, I don't have anything to say on that one. I do know that the Nazis were trying to exterminate the transgenders, the gays, the Jews, the Amish, not Amish, gypsies, the gypsies.
Yeah, the gypsies. Yeah, well, I don't think they were trying to exterminate them. They were trying to remove them. That was what was really going on, and it turned into a whole ordeal because certain people were upset. So
what was
and there's certain people would not take them either. And here you've got another France situation, as France has got open doors to all these people that are destroying their culture. What if France wants to get rid of these people? What are the people going to say whenever France says no more Algerians? These Algerians are terrible. They're destroying everything. And then the French are made out to be the bad guys. And so, the Algerians make this situation up to be bigger than it was. And then you've turned France into the biggest villain of all time. And it's just how this thing kind of works. When you got people destroying your culture, you got to do something about them. You're frozen. Your phone overheated again. But anyway, yeah, I know that that sounds intense, but that's because of all the things that we were trained to think as kids. You know, we were trained to think a certain way, and they're building narratives right now. I mean, you can look at what they've done to Vladimir Putin recently, and then you can see also what they've done to Trump. They've turned all these people into worse than they are. They're not, you know, I don't think that by any means that they're like great upstanding people. I don't think that even, you know, I don't think any of these people throughout history, you can name any of them, you know. It's really fun to go into revision and learn exactly what Abraham Lincoln was all about, because it's not consistent with anybody that I know that loves liberty and freedom. It's not consistent with that. It's something that actually like was very detrimental for our culture, because we ended up changing the way that the United States works. None of the states had any rights. I'm talking about Lincoln right now. So the states didn't have rights anymore. That everybody was muted, and he was a complete dictator and changed the outcome of everything. I mean, really, whenever you look at like these chain grocery stores, and I know this sounds silly because, you know, you can look at one store and you can find all the stores that chain covers throughout the country, but each state would have its own culture if the country wasn't homogenized during that event. So you can go back and look at all of these people. There's something that they're telling you because they want you to buy into heavy liberalism. And, you know, and this is what liberalism gets you. It gets you invaded with Algerians.
I found out it's because I'm using an extension cord to charge my phone. That's what's overheating it. So,
oh,
anyway.
Okay. That's what was sparking earlier too. Well, there's the other thing that we're going to talk about is the Supreme Court. It's being extra based lately. So you have that internet business, woman with an internet business in Colorado won her case to say that she didn't have to provide a website for people promoting gay marriage. And then also that student loan thing that you were super upset about months ago is not going through. They're going to try something again after the Supreme Court rotates. And I always worry about the Supreme Court because there's always the fear of court packing, especially in a government like this that just, you know, just basically a banana republic. And it would only put an exclamation mark on that if they packed the court. I don't know if they have the power to do it. I mean, right now the House is trying to impeach Biden right now. So there is a couple of factions that, you know, the power is not completely homogenized at this point. But I think a lot of these things are done for feelies, but then the Supreme Court is making an effect. And, you know, it might, you know, I know that Tim really seems to love the 16th Amendment, right? He's always talking about that.
Well, one of the best things Mitch McConnell did was tell them on the nuclear option, you're going to regret this. And then he used the nuclear option when they had first used the nuclear option. So he played a great strategy of it was a tit for tat game with them, where he took away, basically he showed them, if you go this far, we're going to go this far. And so that, in my opinion, was the Cocaine Mitch moment type thing. Like that's right. They took the filibuster down to 50 plus one on the Supreme Court to nominate the Supreme Court rather than 60 plus one or something like that to nominate the Supreme Court justice. And so Mitch did that. And that is, you know, that's how you stop them overgoing. He used that on that one. If they go to expand it, they know that whenever they get another Republican in office at this point, it's going to be double whatever they put in. They're just going to open the floodgates and just be like, nominate. And then if it's a big enough win, the Republicans most likely would try to push through an amendment holding the Supreme Court at a certain level. That would be my guess, or at a certain level compared to population.
So how many 6-3 decisions are we going to see until the other side starts a big reaction? Because I mean, it's funny because the legislator keeps making stuff up. I mean, I know that we've still got that pistol brace ban that they're trying to force down, and the courts are trying to fix it. I mean, really, that's the best thing that Trump did, was get some people in there that can change a lot of these things and flip that part of at least that department.
Well, uphold by rule rather than uphold by vote. Two wolves voting out and a sheep voting over who's for dinner.
Yep, democracy. There you go.
Yeah, and Trump got with the Supreme Court and also a lot of the judges that he put in place across the country. I think that was that and his overseas diploma. Those were his two biggest wins, in my opinion. He did a whole lot of good stuff overseas, in my opinion.
Well, those were things that were worked out behind the scenes, and he just kind of got to put his name on it.
He allowed them to happen because he was not a warmonger. That's what my opinion on it is. He wasn't a warmonger, so he allowed them to happen. Whereas other people were trying to, cause fractures in the global system, just like, Gaddafi. Hey, I'm going to put us onto the gold standard. Okay, he did atrocities somewhere. Let's go get him, knock him out.
Well, yeah. So like Uganda right now, Uganda decided to ban homosexuality, and that was democracy, right? So it's democracy as long as you do what they want you to do. And so they're going to try to interfere with Uganda, and Uganda's sitting on some gold. So this is not going to go too well for them, especially with
a human rights violation. If the Democrats gain more seats, if they gain more power, they're going to look at that and be like, "Hey, look, he's violating the human rights of the people that want to be gay."
Just the United States, though; it's the UN. So, like, I mean, you look at Macron and all these other people over there, making fun of him because his country has gone to crap, and it's because of having loose immigration policies and this refugee acceptance. But this whole European Union, basically everybody that's completely for the war in Ukraine right now is going to be promoting that. So this is, that's why they call it the globalist American empire. And that's why it's, it's not just the, Trudeau and all of these people, they're all the same. They're all on the same payroll, the same World Economic Forum payroll. And they're all promoting this ridiculous form of liberalism that punishes regular people and goes to war for all of these marginalized groups.
But to me, and that's still why I think Trump is the best one to get in next, personally. And if he chose Rand Paul as VP, I would be jumping up and down for joy.
I mean, I don't think it's going to happen. And I think this is why I always call this, whenever you go into these things, this is fantasy football. But I don't know who his VP is going to be. I actually think it's going to be DeSantis. There's a whole bunch of people that are lined up. I think that they're going to squash their beef, which looks like it's intensifying all the time. But I think that's all part of the theater that goes with it. I don't think, even if he knew that he didn't have the power that Joe Biden has right now, but Joe Biden doesn't really have any power. It's the people that are talking into his little hearing aids. They're telling him what to say, and he keeps screwing it up, But I don't think that there's any single figurehead that's going to fix any of these situations. It's just going to continue to roll on regardless if he's there or not. You saw how it worked with this shot. It's, you know, it's like, oh, well, we'll deregulate this industry completely for temporarily so that they can, you know, rush these things out really quick. And they rushed these things out really quick, and they were that close to making them mandatory. They did everything they could to make them mandatory. They tried to make it part of your OSH system. So, which, you know, I looked into that and saw how many people work for OSHA, and it's not enough to enforce this situation. But companies were really thinking that they had to enforce it, and luckily, due to the courts. So, I mean, I guess because of that judge in Florida that he appointed, that this evil plan couldn't get as bad as it would have.
From my perspective, it's not an overall evil plan. From my perspective, it is people in power seeing opportunities to make money, seeing opportunities to influence their force over others. I know people that if you make one mistake, they're going to hold it over your head for the rest of your life, no matter how small it is. And it's that type of attitude. It's that authoritarian attitude. And to me, that's where the decentralization needs to happen, to get people out of those levels of power. And that's also why I don't have a huge problem with Trump. He was trying to solve a problem, and he allowed them to run away with it before he could get his hands on it. And then the media took and dragged the whole thing down the train tracks. They just expanded and expanded and expanded.
He won't denounce it though. And that's the thing, is he keeps saying that he did the right thing because he has to stick to, he did the right thing because every decision that it's perfect. I made the best decisions. I'm the smartest man alive. Yeah,
but that's part of his bravado. That, like, there's certain people
but no, he screwed up big time. And then there's that, and he won't ever humble himself and do something in order to fix that, or at least, you know, make some bridges with people like me. I mean, like I said, I don't think he's in control of anything anyway. He was just basically said, you know, hey, this is how you can spin this to look good. And so he did. But what else do you think about the Supreme Court as far as affirmative action in the universities? Is this going to spill over into the job world? I mean, it's kind of interesting, you know, because you've got these diversity hires actually sitting on the Supreme Court right now, and they're making these decisions with them in the room.
It's bubbling. It's been bubbling up already. Like, for example, the Daily Wire takes the college application sheet and they throw they take the college sheet and they throw it out and they look at what you've actually done. Jeremy Boring has stated that out loud. He doesn't care what college you went to or whatever. He cares about your abilities. That's one reason I respect the Daily Wire. If I'm not mistaken, the Blaze does this as well. They don't look at the college applications. They take that, toss it out.
I mean, just watch somebody's show. I mean, that's all you got to do is watch somebody's show. But they're also making sure that they're safe. You know, there's people that, I mean, they're not going to hire certain people even if they're good, because they're not safe to their brand, and their brand has to be, you know, it has to be the way it is.
It's not just the personalities on screen that they do that with. They do that with everybody. I'm pretty sure Dave Rubin does this as well.
Okay.
I think everybody at Rumble. The thing is it's the smart people in business look for competency, not for people in paper. It's especially people in the libertarian area and the people on the right.
That's how you recruit for. It's how you recruit for anything that's talent based. You gotta see the talent work. I mean, if somebody, nobody's interested in picking up our show, right? But if somebody were, they would be watching the show to see if it's any good. They're not going to look at either of our resumes. I mean, like, oh, well, Mud over there has a lawn care business, and Ando went to school for radio a long time ago. So, you know, I mean, they're not looking at that anyway. but what they want to see, one, an audience, and two, they want to see if you can carry a show and if you're safe. They need people to be a certain level of safe. And Ben gets things wrong off the bat every single time.
You're missing my point. Part of my point was, for example, when I worked in the restaurant industry, you had to be inside the restaurant industry for several years and work your way up the ladder to get hired from the inside. But if you had a high school diploma, sorry, not a high school diploma, if you had a college diploma in English, they would hire you. They would put you above other people to be a manager. So in order to be a manager without a college diploma, you had to work your way up. But if you were like, hey, I'm an English major, here's my paperwork, they would be like, oh, this guy's at the top of the stack. That's changing. And that's what I want to see change. Because when I was in the restaurant industry, I quit like 7 years ago. That's how things operated. I could not apply to be a manager and be at the top. Anybody with a diploma was at the top.
Well, and that system is going away completely because a college is out here educating people with sub 100 IQ now because they got money.
Yeah.
And so a college degree doesn't mean anything. It's not like you're taking the cream of the crop and training them up to be the best that they can be so that they can go and cure cancer. You're taking people that just need to have that as a minimum requirement for just about every job. You can't even join the Peace Corps without a bachelor's degree.
Seriously?
I mean, yeah, it's been that way for a long time. Yeah.
That's mental.
Yeah.
Well, I guess
so,
it's a Peace Corps, so they want you indoctrinated.
Right. They want you. So they want that. And so that's one of the reasons why there's school requirements for just about every single industry. And people will look at it just to see if you would go through all the hoops in a lot of positions. But whenever you're hiring based off of talent, you just got to find out if the person's talented. And if you got a brand, you got to make sure that they're safe for your brand. Mm-hmm. You know, I mean, Glenn Beck's not hiring somebody that says that the Mormons are Masonic. He's not doing that. You know, Ben Shapiro and Jeremy Boring are not hiring somebody that criticizes just about every single thing that Israel does. It's not happening. Dave Rubin, if you go a little bit too hard on some of the things, if you tell a little bit too much truth about those people over in Israel, or you tell a little bit of too much truth about the gay folk, he's not going to hire you either. So they have their agendas, and they all have a part to play. And there's a bunch of things going on because this thing is layers upon layers. And I don't know who really is orchestrating this whole thing, but I know what the intended end result is basically everything that Klaus Schwab is always laying out. And I don't know if you saw the meme, but it was Elon's thoughts next to Klaus Schwab's thoughts, and they were the exact same thing.
I did not see that. I would like to see that one. One point I would have on that stuff, though, is because everybody, of course, they all have their different perspectives and their different opinions. That doesn't mean everybody agrees, but there's a certain level of waves that happen with people that are looking, and they go collectively, people that are thinking in a similar way, they're like, we need to tackle this big problem first, and then we can get to the next problem. And people kind of recognize that. And when I was really involved in church for 12 years, from 12 to 22, I think it was, by the time I was 16 or so, I was going to 5 Bible studies a week and 2 church services on top of that. And I would notice the people that were tied in with the Holy Spirit, they kind of, it moved in waves. It was like that it was like the Holy Spirit was kind of directing people. And these people were not connected to each other. The only connection that all these different Bible studies had with each other was me and my core group of like 4 or 5 friends that would go to each Bible study. And we weren't leaders of the Bible studies. We would just go to a Bible study every single week, except for I think it was Tuesday was the only time there wasn't a Bible study. But we would go to every single one of them. But I started noticing that the people started moving in sync, even though they weren't connected together. And to me, it's the recognition of the next problem in the flock. And to me, that's also the reason that, like the bulge, the battle of the bulge popped up. Whenever you're really desperate, Hitler tried, doing the battle of the bulge, where he tried breaking out of the Allied lines in order to encircle them, etc. And that's the desperate move. But when you have momentum behind you, you're just taking one step at a time, and you're just slowly shoving the enemy forward. We're not going to get everything we want in one go. It takes time. And that's what I think is happening, is the people, all these different groups of people are slowly pushing back, slowly. And then there's people like
the simple dynamic is it's like anything. You're at a bar, for instance, right? And there's 2 guys and they're about to fight. You go over here and you go over here. It's that simple to solve a problem. And the thing is, they will never let us go. That's the thing. We're in their clutches forever. And this hostility, this bubbling around us that's happening is all an intended consequence. Every single thing that they're pushing is happening. And what it all leads to is, what's going on in France right now. Well, that's something that's coming here. No, we're going to see stuff like that.
We're seeing stuff like that, but
yeah.
Here's an example. Here's just one example. I totally agree with Michael Malice on Abraham Lincoln. Abraham Lincoln was a tyrant and authoritarian. When I talk to somebody like my mother, for example, who thinks all Republicans are evil, I'll say, Mom, you do know that Abraham Lincoln was the one that freed the slaves, and he was a Republican. I won't tell her the second part. I'm just trying to get her to open her eyes a little bit more.
Yeah. The whole group of them were, I mean, there was something funny happened today when somebody was talking about reparations still. And I can't believe that this is still a thing, but they're talking about this general who promised the 40 acres and a mule. It was a general. A general can't give you stuff. And, and basically what they needed to learn from that situation is, oh, gee, that army recruiter lied to me. How many times has that happened throughout history? I mean, that's basically what they do. They lie in order to tell you that, you're going to get this for that. And they don't have the authority to give those things away. It wasn't Abraham Lincoln that promised that. It wasn't Congress that promised that. It wasn't a Supreme Court that promised that. It was some general.
I'm trying to buy a piece of property right now that actually was part of the 40 acres and a mule.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, you can see that in the deed. Nice little historic deed.
Oh, it's been there for a long time. You can find Civil War weapons on there, and it's not been mined.
That's kind of cool.
It's not been mined for minerals in 150 years. There's a creek going through it. I'm like, I think I could find some gold there. Some of those promissory notes did get carried out, but I mean, you did hear. But to your point, though, you did hear about the Congress when after the Revolutionary War, Congress ensured that payments would go through for the fighters. I don't know if you've heard this one. They ensured payments would go through for the Revolutionary fighters. And then, because there was no internet back then, they sent out people and bought them for pennies on the the promissory notes for pennies on the dollar. They just sent riders out, bought them for pennies on the dollar, had all the promissory notes themselves, and then turned them in for the full thing. I mean, Government
A
is
lot of
corrupt.
people got screwed. Yeah, I mean, there's so many scams that have run that way. I mean, look at how complicated our scams are now. You got Sam Bankman-Fried basically taking all the money that the United States is giving to Ukraine, putting it into this account, and then and then donating it to the Democrats. And so of course they're voting for more money to go to Ukraine, and it makes its nice little circle. And he's not getting in trouble. None of these people are getting punished. And see, maybe, you say you got to have all these small steps. Well, maybe small steps are just punish open corruption, because we can all see it. I mean, we don't call it clown world for nothing. This just open banana republicanism going on, and just punish this corruption. I mean, we're seeing all of this stuff with Hunter right now, and and his dad and his text messages to Chinese people. A lot of fun. My dad will not like this. It looks like you're frozen again, but we're pretty close. I mean, we're close. We're over an hour already, so I'm going to cut it off. But I wanted to say thanks to Ashley, and thanks to the Drizzle and OG Dad Bod, because I saw y'all in the comments listening to my show, and I really appreciate y'all. If you want to find me anywhere, look at the links below, libertylinks.io/TheDoomKitchen, and you can email me at TheDoomKitchen@protonmail.com. Thanks, y'all.